Okay, hello everyone. Again, sort of. Again, I'm Wayne Goodman, Director of the Landmark Society. Thanks for being here. We could sort of have all been together in one location, but we're making this work definitely. As I kind of mentioned just a moment ago, I'd like to just thank Innovating Edge, Jonathan. Thanks so much. I really appreciate it. He's our title sponsor today. Oh, how are you, Jonathan? And Jim, thank you so much. And I think just another quick word of thanks to Gina DeBella and the awards committee for your leadership, Gina, and for I think all the hard work that our awards committee really puts into those things. And then the final thanks really goes to all of you. The thanks for all of your hard work. The Landmark Society as a historic preservation organization really advocates, encourages, educates on all things historic architecture and historic preservation. We just simply could not do our work with people like you who really carry out the work. And the work that you do is the really hard work. And it's the investment that you put in your time and in your money that really makes all the difference. And it's your work that really helps define the communities that we live in. So again, thanks very much. At this point, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Gina DeBella, who will start going through the awards. Thanks, Gina.
Thanks, Wayne. Good afternoon and welcome to the 37th Annual Landmark Society Awards Program. Thank you for joining us today. We are so glad to finally be able to gather together in person to honor the people, projects, and organizations who've impacted historic preservation in our 9-county region. When the Preservation Awards Committee began meeting in February of this year, we were still maneuvering around COVID-19 a bit. We held the majority of our committee meetings on Zoom, but slowly evolved to hybrid meetings. At the same time, we packed in a record number of in-person site visits over the summer and spring. Our online nomination form, initiated in 2021, continued to grow this year. In fact, many of the awardees being recognized today were nominated using the online nomination form. And our review process was reorganized and streamlined with the assistance of our new staff person, Becky Timmons. We can't thank Becky enough for all the time she's put into making the awards program and today's event run so smoothly. So thank you. Before we begin today's awards presentation, I'd like to thank our presenting sponsor, the Innovating Edge. Thank you. And welcome sponsor representatives Jerry Fisher and Jonathan Rosenfeld. Thank you. I'd also like to recognize and thank my fellow committee members, Aaron Anheier, Christopher Brandt, who will be helping us with today's award presentation, Rome Chully, Robert Corby, Gerald Gam, Cynthia Hauk, Steve Jordan, Roxanne Kais, Tara LaCastro, Beth Teal, and David Whitaker. So, thank you also to our Landmark staff reps, Becky Timmons and Larry Francer, who guided us through the selection process. Becky's running the slideshow, and Larry will be assisting Chris and I with the presentations, word presentation. Thanks also to Landmark staff members Caitlin Mivas and Carolyn Haggard for their assistance in making today's program possible. So I was going to do a little housekeeping. I'll just do a reminder because Larry already said it. But after we present or introduce each award, we invite the person or persons accepting the award to come up to the podium to receive your award. And then, like we said, we'll step away and I guess you're going to be photographed as well. And then we'll step away and you can make a few brief comments. After the final award has been presented, we invite all award recipients to come up to the front or somewhere here, and we're going to try and do a group photograph. So without further ado, let's get on with the Landmark Society's Preservation Awards. All right, make sure I have the right one here. Yes. The first award today is the Award of Merit. The Award of Merit is given for the sympathetic rehabilitation of an historic building or structure in our 9-county region, completed within the past 2 years. This year's Awards of Merit are presented to 3 projects in the city of Rochester. The first Award of Merit is presented to Christ Church Rochester, located at 141 East Avenue in the city of Rochester, Monroe County. This award recognizes the parish of Christ Church Rochester and the skilled project team that worked to restore this historic 19th century building. Recent projects completed include stabilization of the south wall of the parish house, installation of new roof and flashing on the office wing, and creation of the sophisticated, historically inspired stenciled wall decoration in the sanctuary. The project team includes Barrow Architecture PLLC, project architect, Pike Stained Glass Studios, Tiffany Stained Glass Restoration, CSTM Corporation, roofing contractor, MPSB Studios, architect for the interior worship space, and Swytech Studios, decorative painting. Projects were funded by assistance from the New York State Environmental Fund, as well as the parish's recently completed capital campaign. The Landmark Society honors the parish of Christ Church Rochester for preserving the beauty of a building that has served the community for 167 years. So accepting the award today are Nancy Norwood and Deb Vanderbilt, parishioners and members of the Capital Campaign Committee.
Let's do, yeah, I'll do. Just wanted to say a few words. Fortunately, you had everything up on the screen, so I don't have to remember every studio and every person. But you could see from the list how involved this project was, and we're so grateful for this award. It really, it means the world to the parish. When it was announced at church this morning, I mean, the applause was deafening. So everyone's very excited. So I thank the Landmark Society for this. I also thank the parish. It's all a result, beside the grants of our capital campaign, which did raise about $780,000. It's an old church. It needs a lot of money, a lot of work to bring it back. And we had almost 90% participation from the parish for our capital campaign, which is extraordinary. So I thank the members of the parish, I thank the members of the committee, and I thank the Landmark Society and everyone who worked so hard. Thank you.
Congratulations. The next award of merit is presented to St. Bernard's Park Apartments located at 2260 to 2300 Lake Avenue in the city of Rochester, Monroe County. The Landmark Society recognizes CV St. Bernard's LLC for the exterior rehabilitation of St. Bernard's Park Apartments. In 2018, the property required substantial investment to restore its historic character, improve tenant quality of life, and energy efficiency. The exterior work completed in 2021 was part of a $27.98 million project that made use of state and federal historic tax credits and other funding sources. The challenging 18-month project included the occupied rehabilitation of a 6-building complex containing a total of 160 residential units. Exterior work included the complete replacement of original red slate roofing and copper flashings, brick and stone masonry, repointing and restoration, historic window restoration, and the installation of large solar arrays on the 2 flat roofs. The project team included Edgemere Development Consultant, Catenary Construction Masonry Restoration, Spring Sheet Metal and Roofing, and Baldwin Real Estate Group Housing Management. For the rehabilitation of the City of Rochester designated landmark, so that it may serve the community for many years to come. Landmark Society honors CB St. Bernard's LLC. Accepting the award today are Charles Oster and Serena Travis from Edgemere Development.
Good afternoon. I'll be brief here, but before I go to the script, there's just a crazy thing about this project. My first memory as a human being ever was when I was 5 years old. I attended a Halloween party in the former chapel to St. Bernard. It was terrifying. The property had been renovated, so that always stuck with me. So it was a pretty amazing twist of fate that 30 years later got to help with its restoration. St. Bernard's Park is an amazing property. It is made out of Medina sandstone and red slate and copper. It's been there for 150 years. It'll be there for another 150. It is just an extraordinary asset for the community. And I think one of the things that me and Serena and my colleagues at Edgemere really get a kick out of is finding new uses for these structures, right? It was originally built as a seminary. It served in that capacity for a long time. It was decommissioned in the 70s, and then it just sat vacant for a while until ultimately somebody recognized that there was an extraordinary need for affordable senior housing. There's still need for it today, but there was need for it back then too. And so they converted it to that use. And I think finding new purpose for these structures while we're restoring their architectural excellence is it's one of the most amazing feelings. And all these projects that we do are done with scarce resources. And that doesn't happen unless you have some pretty extraordinary people supporting you in the community. And so I just want to say thank you to the Landmark Society. You guys are wonderful partners, and without your advocacy, these projects wouldn't happen. So thank you so much. And finally, I just want to say thank you to our development partner on this project, Stevie Emanuel Realty. Thank you all very much.
So our third and final award of merit, not awards total, is presented to the Jefferson Wollenstock Apartments, the Wollenstock Building, located at 872 Hudson Avenue in the city of Rochester, Monroe County. The Landmark Society recognizes the Urban League of Rochester Economic Development Corporation, ULREDC, for the historic preservation and adaptive reuse of the Wollenstock Optical Building. Vacant for more than 15 years, the building significantly deteriorated due to deferred maintenance. The Landmark Society named the property to its 2015 Five to Revive list. In 2020, the ULREDC converted the building into 22 affordable apartments as part of the $13.95 million Jefferson Wollenstock project, which made use of state and federal historic tax credits, New York State low-income housing tax credits, and a variety of other funding sources. The project team included Edgemere Development as the developer, Hamilton Stern contractor, SWBR project architect, and Home Leasing building management. Now fully occupied, Wollenstock Apartments have helped to provide neighborhood beautification, community revitalization, and sustainability by adapting an iconic landmark and returning it to a useful life. For the rehabilitation of this important part of Rochester's optical history, the Landmark Society honors the Urban League of Rochester Economic Development Corporation. Accepting the award today is Dr. Hao Zhang.
Thank you so much.
There you go.
Well, thank you so much. I would like to use this opportunity to thank the Landmark Society. Give us such an award, definitely a great honor to us. To me, this is a recognition of incredible work of our very talented team to transform a piece of Rochester's history to affordable housing apartments complex that serve the communities in need. And I would like to thank our team, Edgemere Development, Urban League of Rochester, our parent organization, as well as SWBR, Hamilton Stern, and and our management team, Home Leasing. And also this project happens because of the support of the New York State Housing and Community Renewal, the City of Rochester, as well as our investor, Citizens Bank and RBC. If I missed any party, please forgive me. Thank you so much. Yeah.
So now I'd like to introduce Larry Prancer, Associate Director of the Landmark Society, who will present the next group of awards.
Okay, I'd just like to mention that the Landmark Society also produces the Celebrate City Living video series. And our second video took place at the Wallensack building. So that was really exciting. You should all check that out on celebratecityliving.com. But now back to the awards. I have 3 special citation awards to give out, and a special citation provides recognition for projects that do not fit in other categories. So I was just saying to Chris, that doesn't sound like such an honor. We got to come up with a better description of this award. But the important one today, because we are giving 3 that recognize outstanding individuals or group accomplishments in the field of historic preservation. So this year's special citation are presented to 3 honorees who represent a wide variety of individual and organizational achievements in our 9-county region. Starting with Don Hall. History, architecture, and fine art educator, the city of Rochester, Monroe County, New York. The Landmark Society recognizes Donald Hall for a long and influential career as a history, architecture, and fine art educator. A resident of Rochester since 1968, when he became director of the Strassenberg Planetarium, Hall has amassed an impressive post-astronomy career, giving hundreds of lectures, both locally and around the country, on topics as diverse as architecture, stars, zinc grave markers, pottery, glass, organs, and hamburgers. He's also written extensively for magazines such as Antiques Forum and the Journal of American Art Pottery. For nearly 2 decades, he was a tour guide at Mount Hope Cemetery, where he combined humor with impressive research to create a memorable experience for those visiting this nationally significant landmark. Since 2006, proceeds from his classes and lectures have supported the fund he established for historic preservation projects at the Rochester Area Community Foundation. For his commitment to education and historic preservation in the region and beyond, the Landmark Society honors Donald Hall. Yes, and accepting the award will be Chris Grooms, who is Don's colleague from Mount Hope Cemetery. Actually, Don accepted it, but Chris will say a few words on Don's behalf.
So Don has been a mentor and a great friend of mine since 2018, when I first became involved with Friends of Mount Hope Cemetery. Don asked me to read a couple of words that he has written, so I will do that. Don says, I began work in the planetarium in January of 1968. I was 2 years old. And I was an education director there. At the time, East Avenue was on the way to becoming a slum. 1969, the first preservation district was created, saving East Avenue. In January of 1970, Ian McClellan named me director of the planetarium he had created. I retired in 1995 after 25 years. I was a trustee of Friends of Mount Hope Cemetery from 2003 until 2020 and served 15 plus years as a tour guide. When I began doing talks about East Avenue, they took 1 hour. The last class that I taught on the East Avenue Preservation District lasted 5 hours. If you're interested in some of the details of my presentations, you can look at my website, donhallspeaks.com.
Okay. Our second special citation award goes to Gary E. Albright, paper and photograph conservator, Village of Honeoye Falls, Monroe County, New York. The Landmark Society recognizes Gary E. Albright for over 40 years of work providing professional museum quality conservation services for photographs and artifacts on paper. Albright has conserved and restored photographic and paper-based materials for both institutional and private clients. An internationally respected conservation educator with specialty in photography conservation. He's a fellow of the American Institute of Conservation. Among the diverse array of objects he has treated are the Emancipation Proclamation, Honest Wagner baseball cards, Ansel Adams photographs, and working drafts of the Constitution of the United States. Wow. Yeah. For his contributions to the field of paper conservation, we honor Gary E. Albright. Gary couldn't be with us this afternoon, but we congratulate him on this award. That's Gary. And now for our third and final special citation, Thomas Triniski, newspaper archivist, City of Fulton, Oswego County, New York. The Landmark Society recognizes Thomas Triniski for extensive archiving work. Created in 1999, the website www.fultonhistory.com includes digitized copies of over 1,000 New York State newspapers, as well as editions from other states and Canada. Triniski created and manages this website and makes its content available free of charge to users around the world. With over 50 million pages of scanned and searchable newsprint, www.fultonhistory.com is one of the largest such websites in the world. This incredible achievement is made even more remarkable by the fact that Triniski has done most of his work from his living room in Fulton, New York, upgrading his equipment at his own expense. For his digital contributions to the students, researchers, and curious information seekers, we honor Thomas Triniski. And Tom could not be with us this afternoon, but we do congratulate him on this award. Now we move on to the Small Business Awards. New in 2020, the Small Business Award recognizes small businesses that occupy historic commercial buildings and have demonstrated their commitment to preservation via the care, repair, and/or long-term operation at these sites. And the award this year goes to the Blue Rose Victorian Bed and Breakfast, 30 Murray Street, Village of Mount Morris, Livingston County. The Landmark Society recognizes David and Michelle Shaughnessy for the rehabilitation and stewardship of the historic Blue Rose Bed and Breakfast, a beautifully restored 1894 Queen Anne listed on the National Register of Historic Places. The home, designed by architect William C. Walker of Rochester, New York, for Mrs. Mark D. Hanover, was the first house in Mount Morris to add electricity and is well known for its third floor ballroom, hosting many Victorian era parties. Honoring over 125 years of history, this Victorian gem with several interior features intact was lovingly restored inside and out by owners and innkeepers David and Michelle Shaughnessy, who began renovations over 10 years ago, along with beautifully revitalizing its gardens. The Shaughnessy's continue efforts to promote, preserve, and protect the legacy while offering their pristine home and accommodations for guests to enjoy. For their outstanding commitment to this treasured part of Mount Morris's historic village, the Landmark Society honors David and Michelle Shaughnessy.
Well, my husband and I would just like to thank the Landmark Society and the Awards Committee for coming to Mount Morris to see our home. We've been working on it for about 11 years. And it was always our wish to own a Victorian home that we could restore. And we basically came for the house. We grew up in Leroy, New York, which is full of history. So we didn't venture very far, but we're so pleased with the house, and we've been wanting to share it with our guests, and we're so honored to be recognized for this. Thank you so much.
And our next awards are the Blood, Sweat, and Tears Award. I think we can thank Chris for that creative name. Pretty good. This award recognizes building owners who have physically engaged in the preservation and restoration of their property through self-education and countless hours of do-it-yourself work. The work on the building does not have to be complete, but should be mindful of the Secretary of the Interior standards for rehabilitation and demonstrate substantial self-performed long-term care. This Blood, Sweat, and Tears Awards, this year's Blood, Sweat, and Tears Awards honor the owners of two significant historic homes in our region. And the first is the Isaac Shipley House, 7470 Lake Ave, hamlet of Pulteneyville, Wayne County. And I do have a note here that says the address is Ave, not Avenue. So the Landmark Society recognizes Paul and Patricia Nelawaye, right? Good, Nelawaye, in honor of their ongoing rehabilitation of the 1850 Italianate Isaac Shipley Historic Farmhouse. After purchasing the house in 2012, the Nelawaye's embarked on a decade-long journey of in-depth research and meticulous rehabilitation, from foundation stabilization to historically accurate stenciling. Projects have included water damage repair, woodwork restoration, floor refinishing, and historic shutter installation. Beyond their hands-on work, Paul Neloayek has accumulated an incredible amount of information about the house and its history, which helped inform a nomination to the National Register of Historic Places currently under review, and a listing on the New York State Register of Historic Places. With this award, we honor Paul and Patricia Neloayek for their unwavering dedication to the preservation of their landmark residence. Accepting the award will be Paul and Patricia Neloayek. It's so much prettier when you say it, so you can say it for everyone to hear. It's beautifully put.
My husband, when he first met me, he wanted nothing but new property, a new home. And as we lived together, our houses have been getting older and older. So when we went to downsize to our current home, he became obsessed with the history of it, and that led us here today. So I want to thank my husband and the Landmark Society.
Well, downsizing was because our kids grew up. And we were supposed to go to a smaller house. Well, this house is a little over twice the size of that house that we left. So anyway, we've been working on it for 10 years. We're not done. And we're really thankful for everybody that has helped us with history and everything else on this house. We've been working on it, I guess, 10 years, about 6 years into research of its history. And it has an amazing history, which I will be hopefully being able to put out so people can see once it is completed. So thank you again. And thank you, Landmark Society, for the award.
And our second Blood, Sweat, and Tears award goes to the Abraham Wagner House, 5224 Skyline Drive, Town of Jerusalem, Yates County, New York. The Landmark Society recognizes David and Katie Tomlinson in honor of their ongoing rehabilitation and preservation of the 1833 Greek Revival Abraham Wagner House. For the past 30 years, the Tomlinsons have devoted every spare moment to the preservation of their home and the breathtaking property on which it stands. Significant projects have included masonry repair, woodwork restoration, floor refinishing, the reconstruction of the side portico, and the restoration of the front entrance hall. The most impressive project is the replacement of the house's two-story columns, which the Tomlinsons did themselves with the help of friends and family. Through each step in the house's restoration, the couple has demonstrated patience. They understand and accept that a structure of this age can be stubborn and unyielding, and yet they've remained dedicated to it. With this award, we honor David and Katie Tomlinson for their unwavering commitment to the preservation of their landmark residence. And accepting the award will be David and Katie Tomlinson.
Well, good afternoon. First, I'd like to thank the Landmark Society for this opportunity and recognition, and the awards committee, and also our friends and family who have always answered the call when needed. Whether hanging 12-foot sheets of drywall on the ceiling, hauling 40 sheets of 3/4 inch plywood to the attic, or as the picture showed, And it was mentioned of, let's replace some columns today, right? And that was a job that we did in 9 hours. And it took 8 of those, so, and saved $6,000. So, the house has been, in my family, since I was about a year old. I always wanted to live there. I've lived there, 32 years now, more than half my life. And, as we, started out, it was rather imposing, and started with working with the property and the outbuildings, moved on to the porches and exterior details, the balcony was rebuilt. And then as our children grew up, now we worked on the inside, and as the awards committee visitors in August saw the front hall, which was totally torn apart, is hopefully then be done by the end of this month. So we're hoping by not before Thanksgiving, unfortunately. We primed it yesterday. So, just when the awards committee visited, it was in the mid-90s. Our house is not air conditioned, and it was set up for an hour-long appointment. I talked for 2 hours. Right? And I woke up in the middle of the night thinking of all the things I didn't say. I think that I could have gone on for 4 hours and still would have not finished everything. But the funniest thing, and I saw there was a picture of the attic fireplace. So they said that they wanted to see everything, right? Because I was worried about the hour, right? And we're like still outside at the end of the first hour. And like, yes, show us everything. So we went to the attic, and I mean, it was 95 degrees, and I was up there telling various stories and pointing things out, and got carried away, and I turned around. I think there was one person left. And everybody was back downstairs and under the maple tree. So, anyways, I appreciate your time and your visit, and we appreciate the recognition. Wasn't something we were looking for, but it's part of a house history now, and we will keep us and cherish it. So thank you again.
At this point, I'll turn it over to Chris Brandt, architect, Board of Trustees member, yup, all around great guy, Chris Brandt.
All right. Thank you, Larry, for the introduction. So I have a full number of different awards to present. And the first award is in our category for the Historic Home Award. So the Historic Home Award is given to owners of private residences for their continued care of and commitment to the preservation of an architecturally significant house over a minimum of 7 years. This year's Seoul Historic Home Award honors Michael Borges, owner of the Walters Peck House at 8814 Wesley Road in the town of West Bloomfield, Ontario County. Landmark Society honors Michael Borges for the continued care and preservation of the 1803 Georgian post and beam Walters Peck House. Since purchasing the house in 2011, Mr. Borges has followed the Secretary of the Interior standards in his efforts to preserve and also restore the house, which was listed on the National Register and the New York State Register of Historic Places in 2017. Also, those nominations were written by Mr. Borges. The most significant project has been the restoration of the historic buttery, or pantry, as we might call it today. The space, which was turned into a laundry room sometime in the 1970s, was returned to its original use by removing the laundry function, restoring the original horsehair plaster ceiling and plaster walls, reinstalling an original window, and milling and installing period-appropriate wide pine flooring. Other projects have included the removal of a modern half bath, the removal of inappropriate windows and wainscoting, the removal of aluminum siding and restoration of the original wood siding beneath, the removal of acoustic ceiling tiles and drywall that concealed the original kitchen fireplace and beehive oven. Over the past 11 years, Michael has conducted research, consulted with experts, and sought out period-appropriate materials. And this is my favorite part when we visited. Tracking down windows from the same area built in the same time period to replace inappropriate windows. He found 1805 windows with 1805 glass to go back into the house, which is a remarkable dedication to the restoration of the home. So over the last 11 years, Michael's conducted research, consulted with experts, and sought out period appropriate materials. And even more impressive, the impeccably restored home features dozens of his own colorful handmade chairs. For his outstanding stewardship of this remarkable property, the Landmark Society recognizes Michael Borges with this Historic Home Award.
Thank the Landmark Society for the work that these people do here at the society, the nominating committee. I know it's a lot of people, it's under the radar these days. And quite often I realize that we don't realize how important these old structures are till they're gone. And I say that because just recently in our town of West Bloomfield, which by the way is in Ontario County, not Livingston County, but it's Ontario County. We had a barn that was about 1840 or 1850. It looked to be in really great shape for all these last few years, but about 2 months ago, the big heavy windstorm we had, the entire barn collapsed, just kind of cascaded out into the field. And you really don't pay that much attention. I always admired it going by, but it wasn't until it fell down, I realized that it was a landmark. So now when you drive down the road, it's immediately, I think, gee, the barn is gone. It's just in a big heap. And I don't know that he ever did anything wrong. It probably just undetected wood rot or whatever happened to it. It was a shame that it got to that point. But I do want to thank the Landmark Society and my nominator, Sue Washburn, who's also of West Bloomfield. And I guess the easiest way to wrap up these projects like this is when I found this house, which took me 20 years to find the right house. When I bought it, I said I had a 5-year plan and should be done. And I'm in the 11th year of 5 years. And I think I have another 5 years to go. But again, thanks very much.
The next category of awards that I have the honor to present is for the Paul Malo Award for Community Preservation Advocacy. The Paul Malo Award for Community Preservation Advocacy is named after the late Paul Malo, who was an award-winning author, an architect, a historian, a Syracuse faculty member. I think this is missing from our list here, but he was also a long time serving state senator whose passion and advocacy for New York's historic resources extended over a 6-decade career. The award recognizes an individual who has been an outstanding advocate for historic preservation in their community. This year's Paul Malo Award honors Stacy Grinsfelder, Village of East Aurora and Erie County, New York. So we were more than willing to go outside of our 9-county region for Stacy. The Landmark Society honors Stacy Grinsfelder with our 14th Paul Malo Award, established in 2008 to recognize these special community activists. Stacy is a dedicated and multifaceted historic preservation advocate, both in the Western New York region as well as nationally. Through her Blake Hill House blog, Stacy has thoroughly documented and shared her successes, her failures, self-education, research, and innumerable hours of do-it-yourself work involved in the maintenance and rehabilitation of her historic home in the Village of East Aurora. Through her blog and her social media channels, Stacy's emphasis on process over perfection makes historic preservation and stewardship of older homes more approachable and welcoming to the broader community. Stacy's True Tales from Old Houses podcast champions the work of craftspersons and other homeowners in the historic preservation community. Has become one of the most listened to and one of the most listened to podcasts within the preservation field. In addition to all of this, Stacy has also become a leading advocate and educator on the restoration of wood windows within the Old House social media community. For her tireless work and innumerable contributions to the field of historic preservation, Landmark Society honors Stacy Grinsfelder.
You so much. Oh my gosh. I was just thrilled to get Steve Jordan's call telling me about this award. And let me tell you, getting an award for doing something that you love feels like $1,000,000. So thank you for that. I just want to say that I will continue to work really hard to be that bridge between academics and trades and DIY and activism, because as we all know, it's going to take everyone working together to save our built environment. So thank you so much.
Our next category award is one that's sort of near and dear to my heart as an architect, working in the historic preservation field. I can't emphasize enough how important our talented craftspersons in the traditional trades are to accomplishing the work that we try to design and the buildings that we try to restore. The Traditional Trades Award recognizes outstanding accomplishments in the field of traditional trades and craftsmanship. And this year I have the honor of giving out 2 awards. The first is to Demetrius DeUlio and Richard Tripati of AMA Blacksmiths in the city of Rochester, Monroe County. Landmark Society recognizes Demetrius and Rich, co-owners of AMA Blacksmiths, for their outstanding craftsmanship and architectural metalwork. AMA Blacksmiths combines traditional blacksmith techniques and modern fabrication methods to provide railing and decorative furnishings to residential and commercial clients. They are accomplished in their detailed repair and restoration of historic ironwork as well. From hand sketches to fabrication and installation, their artistry and expertise has contributed to projects throughout the greater Rochester region, including, and this is how I first had the opportunity to meet them, the past Barbara Conable Award winner at the Little Theater. For their exemplary work in the traditional trades, the Landmark Society honors Demetrius DeUlio and Richard Tripati of AMA Blacksmiths. I don't get this.
It's very exciting. Unfortunately, my partner Richard couldn't be here, but he is very excited for us both. And we want to thank Landmark Society as well as the committee for this award. We were really excited because, well, we weren't expecting it. The job that we did that kind of got us in the spotlight was the steel work for the Little Theater. And then a little story to that kind of makes it really exciting was we had built it and they had already built the doors. And they came to us and said, we need you to make these pieces to look like this from when it was originally built. And we need them to go into this square. Sure, no problem. We'll do that. So we did that. And, you know, with the craftsmanship that we did, we were able to make it fit in the square and it was good. We heard later on though, during the presentation of the pieces and the door itself at Rochester Colonial, when they had built this beautiful door, they decided to take it as a demonstration to show what craftsman was all about. I don't know if it was for their craftsmanship or our craftsmanship, but without ever trying it, he takes the piece as this thing is staying there, and he gently lays it in and just slides in perfectly. They call us up in excitement. Your work is phenomenal. Everyone was so impressed. I'm like, well, that's great. You know, that's awesome. They're like, no, they couldn't believe how precision it was. I'm like, what do you mean? And he tells me the story. I'm like, did you try it? He's like, no, we just went up and did it. So we got lucky, of course, because anyone that works with metal knows there's some working and some distortion to it. So that was exciting, and I'm glad we got through that, and we'll never try that again. But I think for us, doing the traditional work and to work to get recognized is very exciting, and we appreciate it. But it's because I think we look at it differently. We don't look at it for our glory, we look at it for glory of the work. So I like to think it's like when you open up the wall and we built it, you build the molding of the wall, and anyone that's done restoration work on an old house knows when you remove that molding and you find out it was 15 feet long and it's been there for 80 years, and you remove it and it was one nail holding it on. And you don't understand. And then you peel it back and you see that it's been carved and trimmed and perfectly pressure fit and then just lightly hammered in. It's so sometimes you build things not for yourself or not for your glory, but for anything for the customer, of course you do it. But but you do it so that the next guy has to repair it or work on it. They look and they go, oh my gosh, this guy held this thing on with one nail. Are you kidding me? And so that's the kind of stuff that we strive for in the work. It's behind, it's the underside. And it's the things I've seen from all the work that I've seen, it's all doing the same, and as well as the Landmark Society. So again, thank you for the award. And I hope that wasn't too long.
Oh, yeah.
I'm gonna take one all. So you get one too?
Yeah.
I would like to say a speech. before-
Our next traditional trades award goes to Dave Young of David Young Carpentry in the village of Newark, Wayne County. A second generation craftsman, Dave has devoted over 4 decades of woodworking talent and experience to the restoration of historic buildings in Western New York. He began his career in partnership with his carpenter and craftsman father, the late Glenn Young, who was also a recipient of this award back in 2008. With wide-ranging skill that includes the design and construction of custom furniture, Dave has completed detailed repairs as well as the replication and installation of historic woodwork and framing for exteriors, interiors, porches, storefronts, and stained glass windows on religious, commercial, and residential buildings throughout our region. Accepting the award today is Dave Young. Congratulations, Dave.
Wow, this is a real honor. Like Chris said, I followed in my father's footsteps, and he was a master craftsman and a preservationist, so I had a really good teacher. And I always thought I operated under the radar. You know, I come to these meetings and look at the projects. Hey, I was there, but you know, this never got mentioned, but thank you very much, the Landmark Society.
Okay, my final category, the 2 awards, is the Jean France Special Achievement Award. This award recognizes accomplishments of an individual that have occurred over a lengthy period of time. The award was recently named in honor of the late Jean R. France, Landmark Society trustee, accomplished architectural historian, passionate preservationist, community advocate, and a longtime member and chair of the Preservation Awards Committee. I add also that Jean was also a friend and longtime mentor to myself. So the first Jean France Special Achievement Award tonight that I've the honor of giving is to another longtime friend and colleague, Arlene Wright Vanderlyn, of the town of Brighton, Monroe County, New York. The Landmark Society honors longtime preservation advocate Arlene Wright Vanderlyn with our Jean France Special Achievement Award. For over 50 years, Arlene has been dedicated to the promotion and preservation of historic and architectural resources in the Rochester region, and specifically in the town of Brighton, where she resides. Her career as an interior designer on historic and adaptive reuse projects has had a lasting impact on some of our region's most significant historic buildings and interiors. Arlene has served on the Landmark Society Board of Trustees for 24 years and was president from 1992 to 1994. With the help of Jean France, for whom this award is named, Arlene created the Built Environment Awareness Program, which taught children about our relationship with and responsibility to the built environment. Arlene was the first chair of the Town of Brighton Historic Preservation Commission and served on that commission for 20 years. She was also instrumental in the founding of Historic Brighton, a not-for-profit organization created to promote the town of Brighton's history and the benefits of historic preservation. And that's an organization which she still serves on all the way from its founding, I think also 20 plus years ago. A person with a passion for history, architecture, and the built environment, Arlene Wright Vanderlyn has been a tireless advocate for our region's historic resources. Congratulations, Arlene.
I am so grateful that Chris told me
couple of months ago. Otherwise, I probably would be standing here dissolved and not be able to say a thing, which would be highly unusual, wouldn't it? I'm really humbled by this recognition, mostly because I had the privilege of calling Jean France a friend and a mentor, as she was with you. Receiving this award is very precious to me because knowledge I gained from her and my involvement in the Landmark Society greatly helped shape my journey as a preservation advocate. In 1971, I volunteered to participate in the Society's first Third Ward House and Garden Tour. Does anybody else remember that? Now known as Cornhill. I had no idea how this decision would influence my future in such a profound way. It opened my eyes to the history of Rochester and its architectural heritage. Most of all, it made me aware of the problems in Rochester and America, what they were facing with the deteriorating cities and the neighborhoods. Urban renewal was threatening to destroy the historic character of America. The Landmark Society was becoming recognized as a leader in making positive use of what they saw happening in the early work in educating the public and local government about the city's rich collection of architecture. They helped save the Third Ward and several other historic neighborhoods. Without these early efforts, Rochester would look very different today. The Landmark Society served as a beacon of effective preservation leadership. I am proud to have been part of that effort. I made it my goal to be part of this education process and sought ways to reach both children and adults. By creating an understanding and appreciation for our local and architectural history, we have a chance to be able to sustain our heritage for future generations, making it a tangible part of our everyday lives and not found only in books. Thank you, Landmark Society, for this award and this recognition. And most of all, for the opportunities to work with wonderful professionals through the years and the knowledge that was made available through my association with the Landmark Society. I thank you. Thank you.
The final Jean France Special Achievement Award today goes to John Lembach of the City of Rochester and Monroe County. Landmark Society honors John Lembach with a Jean France Special Achievement Award for his outstanding dedication to the promotion and preservation of historic resources in the Rochester area, and specifically the Parks Meads neighborhood where he resides. For close to 50 years, he has been instrumental in advocating for or against countless projects that have come before the Rochester Preservation Board as a representative of the Parks Meads Neighborhood Association and as a consultant to other area neighborhood associations. John has been praised for his accuracy, thoroughness, and ability to bring out the salient points to make his case relevant and convincing. He speaks before the City of Rochester Preservation Board with authority, humility, and experience at almost every single meeting those last 50 years. The Landmark Society honors John's passion for history, architecture, and the built environment, and for his tireless and ceaseless advocacy for our city's historic resources. Congratulations, John. And I think, yeah, John.
I'm very honored and humbled to receive this award for doing what I was explained to me as my obligation. My wife and I were 20-somethings in the 1969 when the Preservation Board law was being campaigned for at that point. And we were welcomed to the neighborhood by Dr. Roland Collins, the early president of the Preservation Board, and George Butler, who was also president of the Neighborhood Association at that point, and told us both that since we have the privilege of living in the Park Avenue area, we also have the obligation to help preserve and improve it. And I'm astounded that we're here all these years later doing similar things again to this point. A lot of people don't realize, except for maybe Don Hall here, how problematic the Park Avenue area was at that point. There have been more than a couple of dozen mansions torn down to build modern high-rise buildings. One of which was the Carl F. Lamb home. It's a corner of East Avenue, Clinton Street, which is now a church, the Incarnate Church of the Incarnate Word. And the corner of Strath Allen East Avenue was supposed to be a 22-story HUD urban development high-rise apartment building out there. The neighborhood was not successful in having those buildings stopped, but we did get something better along the way over the years, and the search continues. I work quite often with many neighborhoods around the city, a member of the group called Many Neighbors Building Neighborhoods. We are trying to get other areas of the city to aspire to be more like Park Avenue area with more humane living conditions. We're constantly astounded by the walkability of the neighborhood. We see other neighborhoods like Beechwood neighborhood now is aspiring to that area as well, and they are making great progress to restoring their houses also. So again, I'll be short and not give you the rest of the history lesson I could do. I'll leave that to town hall. But I am reminded of one fact that we have to be aware of all the time if we're advocating for or against a project, or as we can prefer to say it, encouraging with a little nudging here and there along the way. The East Avenue corridor, Park Avenue corridor is a museum of living architecture. And we have to be confident of the fact of adapting to what's going forward so we can maintain the history of the past at the same time. Again, I'm very humbled for this award. Thank you.
And for tonight's final award, I'm going to reintroduce our chair, Gina DeBello.
Thank you. Our final award this afternoon is the Barber Carnival Award. The Barber Carnival Award is the Landmark Society's most prestigious award for historic preservation. It recognizes a large-scale rehabilitation of a historic building. In our region, a historic building in our region completed within the past 2 years. This award was created to honor Congressman Barber Carnival of Alexander, Genesee County, who supported the establishment of the Federal Investment Tax Credit Program for the rehabilitation of historic income-producing buildings. And a lot of you here benefited from that tax credit, maybe not the homeowners, but a lot of the projects that we honored in the beginning. So if it weren't for them, we might not see what some of the rehabilitation we've had these past years. This year's recipient of the Barber Carnival Award is Bent's Opera House. Located in the village of Medina, Orleans County, New York. This year's Carnival Award honors Roger Hungerford and Heather Farnsworth for the outstanding rehabilitation of Bent's Opera House. This ambitious project is the result of a talented team with the preservation expertise necessary to restore a 150-year-old cornerstone property in the village of Medina. The project team includes Talus Equity, LaChase Construction, Talus Historic Restoration, Kidney Architects, and Preservation Studios. The rehabilitation was completed using historic tax credits for buildings listed on the National Register of Historic Places. The building now boasts an impressive first-floor restaurant and private dining space, a second-floor boutique hotel with 10 uniquely designed rooms, and an elegantly restored opera house on the 3rd floor. With this restoration, the owners of Bent's Opera House have returned this Erie Canal Village landmark to its historic role as a community gathering space and performance venue. Medina natives Roger and Heather have demonstrated a commitment to historic preservation and the long-term economic sustainability of the village of Medina. Roger and Heather were out of town and unable to be with us for the ceremony today, but I'd like to congratulate them. We'll make sure that they get their certificate. And I just wanted to add that I had the opportunity to visit the Bent's Opera House building 2011 when I was working on my thesis for historic preservation. And to see it, be able to go back and see it this year, it was just amazing to see the work that had been done. So it's possible. So congratulations again. So that concludes our awards presentation for this afternoon. Congratulations again to all the award recipients. Don't forget, we're going to try and do a group photo at the end of it when we conclude. But as a reminder, this program is being recorded and will be available to view on the Landmark Society website and YouTube channel very soon. The awards committee will start reviewing nominees for next year's awards in the spring. The online nomination form should be live again in early 2023. In the meantime, if you have any suggestions for future awards, please contact Becky Timmons at the Landmark Society. So until next time, have a happy holiday season and a healthy new year. And please join us. Again, we have some delicious refreshments over there. So hopefully come and indulge. Thank you very much.